So with that being said, we've seen the report that was being played, and because of the NNPC Limited had come out to announce, that the Warri Refinery had been kicked off, and it has come up with a whole lot of controversies. And one of the people who had actually come up to make a comment about the refinery was the past president, Olusegun Obasanjo, and he had so much to say about it, which led to him being invited to come have a tour at the refinery, and him rejecting it, and saying it was disrespectful for NNPCL to invite him on social media, not directly and all. Let me first get your comment on the refinery as it is. I mean, we've had Port Harcourt kick off, and it still had a whole lot of controversies on whether or not it was. And then now we have Warri Refinery, and NNPC had also said that Kaduna Refinery is also being worked upon. But what's your reaction to this? Is this a news that gladdens your heart, or are there worries or concerns about it? Let's start with Mr. Sunday.
I wouldn't say it gladdens my heart per se.
Okay.
And I would also say I have worries over it. But importantly, let me believe that it's real, that the refineries are functioning. And if that happens, I think it's a credit to the incumbent president, because he promised that was going to get the refineries working. And now we have 2 refineries working. So I think he has...
Okay, you do believe the refineries are working?
They told us.
Yes.
I have not got reason to say they are not working.
Okay.
So let me believe they are working. So if they are, then it means Mr. President has scored one. And you don't forget, this is the 3rd decade of democracy in Nigeria. So we are, and before then we've had about 2 decades that refineries were not functioning. And now for it to start functioning in the 3rd decade of democracy and the 2nd year of the incumbent president, I think there's something remarkable about it. So it shows, because many of us who are arguing about the production, local production, we're talking about that the basic thing is to get production, reactivate production in Nigeria. And if these 2 refineries are functioning, so they are having a basis of reactivating production in the domestic economy in that sector. And I think it's a credit.
All right. Mr. Son, Mr. Ariel.
Yes, thank you very much. It's okay. What I can confirm is that based on the 2 information we gathered, one from some group of journalists, they came and gave report that yes, actually the Warri Refinery is working, but I don't know whether they ask questions and then follow through by investigating whether actually the output and input of the production is functional. But some of our colleagues had told us, they came, even one of the NTA journalists, came on air to say that they were, invited with some few journalists, and then they went there. They took them straight to Warri Refinery, and that they can confirm, she can confirm that the refinery is working. So it is based on that, I would say, if indeed what the journalists came to report is true, then we should give kudos to the president. Like the editor said, that about 2 decades now, it has been topsy-turvy, back and forth, in ensuring that production is production that is supposed to come naturally, has become a task, for many presidents in the past to see that he sees the light of the day. So if this president is walking the talk, we should give him kudos. But what is remaining is for the fuel, the PMS to be sold at 200 naira per liter. And I stand to be corrected, because I wonder why we would have something in our pocket and then we are finding it difficult to remove from our pocket. It is not normal. You have something that you can access in your pocket, and then you are finding it difficult to remove it from your pocket. So if it is not in your pocket now, it is maybe someone's pocket in the United States or in Belgium or any other country. You can say it can be very difficult because of the fact that it is some distance and the rest of them. But what we have here is inside our pocket. So it should not be difficult or tasking to remove. You know, using financial challenges, financial demands, you know, to get it enormously. You know, it can be very painful for those who feel it is a God-given thing that they have, and then begin to see that it becomes hard because of human-induced challenges. Yeah. So these are the things I feel the president should now come out and how he can entangle them in favor of ordinary Nigerians. Thank you.
All right. So one of the concerns the past president had brought up was the fact that he felt that there was some sort of mismanagement when it comes to, you know, handling the refineries we have in the country, you know, and there were a whole lot of backstories about, you know, Dangote coming in to try to get the refineries and all. Looking at the period, the space, the period of time that, you know, it took our refineries to get to work, you know, and all of that, do you actually agree that there might just be some sort of, you know, mismanagement in handling our refineries?
Oh, well, absolutely so. Because traditionally, state actors, they do not see public corporations as being service delivery to the citizens. They see it as something that provides leisure for them, a source of siphoning public funds. You know, I was having interaction with someone who worked with the Airways. And he was telling me how a minister could fly from Nigeria to Amsterdam to, you know, flying without paying. So you see government officials flying, and they will tell you it's government business. And eventually the thing died. We had a series of reports of allegations of, you know, of corruption, you know, corruption allegations in the sector. Even though there couldn't be thorough investigation to get people to pay for their activities, and they went away with it. And yet we see those corporations, you know, public utilities going down. So I will agree, yes, mismanagement, one, corruption too, and also deliberate negligence, you know, lack of maintenance culture and all that, because they want to break it down so that they can be siphoning our fund. Telling us they want to rehabilitate, they want to import. Don't forget that when in the Abacha regime, when Nupeg was too strong for the military government there, you know, during that crisis of the struggle to actualize June 12th election, then head of state, I think there was a deliberate action to say, okay, since Nupeng and all that, Penga they are troubling us, let's shut down all this, let's keep on, let's, let's resort to importation. And that is how the thing became rampant. But when the democracy came back, we didn't see the need to reverse the trend. And those who had benefited from that subsidy regime really wanted to work. Now, if you ask me, I would tell you that the president reform is working, not by plan, but by default. Not by plan policy, but by default. Because those secrets that they were hiding by NNPC, because NNPC is a corporate. Let's not look for defaulters elsewhere. It's right there. Now, the president said no more subsidy. Within months, NNPC has, within 1.5 years, NNPC has said the refineries are working. Why would they work now? Why didn't they work when there was subsidy regime? Because they now know that free money they were getting, they cannot get it anymore. And Dangote has become a challenge.
Which was where I was going to get to.
Good.
I actually wanted to ask, do you feel that Dangote, you know, was that push? I mean, when they saw that
it's a push factor, because those secrets that were those secrets in NNPC, they were going to be exposed gradually. Don't forget that the NNPC GMD told Nigerians that daily consumption was 6 million liters per day. Based on that, they were claiming money from the federal government for subsidy. After the subsidy removal, without any adjustment or whatever, he said the figure has declined. Okay? Because no subsidy anymore for him then to claim money. Now, in less than 1.5 years, the refinery started working. Because Dangote, even let them rely on importation, Dangote, people will now prefer to go for the local one. You can see the price as 9.25 because Dangote brought it to 9.35. NNPC was selling at 1,025 naira as at December. And if you monitor, I went trying to monitor, NNPC stations were deserted. People went to the the independents to go and buy at a lower price. The NNPC was forced to now bring that to 925. So we're going to see this. So the system is going to trust itself. You talked about pricing. It's not the business of the president to do the pricing. We are saying let there be production. Capital is very, very insensitive to delay. It's not patient at all. Because what is produced must be consumed for the capitalists to make money. So leave that to the producers. Let there be production. That's what I'm saying. You don't need anybody to regulate and say, oh, today is 5 naira, tomorrow is 20 naira. Do it and people will abandon you and go for the other. So I think we're on the right track. Okay,
so on the right track. Mr. Rio, do you agree?
I agree.
How do you see, how are we able to leverage, that's Nigeria itself, how is Nigeria able to leverage its refining capacity to meet local demands, just as we're speaking of?
How, come again?
How can Nigeria leverage its refining capacity to meet local demands?
Already 2 refineries working. We should be able to have more than enough to meet a local demand, but then sustainability of it, the editor has said earlier about corruption, patronage, and then some individual who are the team player in the industry are looking for how to sustainably, enriching their pocket and then perpetually allowing that thing not to work. And he still went ahead to elaborate that at the end of the day, the pricing will come down, it will crash based on the fact that the refinery is working, and then we're having multiple supply of the PMS and the rest of the resources, to the demands of the people. It will crash in the way, the decentralized telecommunication sector, during Obasanjo regime, and then it was started in Abacha's regime, and then Obasanjo took it over, and then today you can see we are buying, everybody has their phone, and then they buy different kind of network depending on choice. So the way it is just the way I discover it goes when it was done in the telecommunication sector. But what we still need is the government to take a lead in guiding it through so that it will not deviate from the way it was, shrouded, a lot of development shrouded in silence, at that time when there is a challenge between Dangote and the NNPC, and then other subsidiary having the DG talking, making a very inflammatory statement at that time, and then saying that the refinery not producing a quality PMS, and then that led to, how the speaker, of the House of Representatives, went on a investigation tour there and then pick up everything that they identify, and then eventually the Department of Petroleum Resources rescind this comment and say that it wasn't what he said, it was different from the way they have picked it and all that. So whatever it is he has said, what we want to achieve is that Dangote refinery has come to stay, and then you can see the way it crashes the PMS product, and then you can see the ripple effect on even the major marketer who is the NNPC. So we hope that the way it's going, it will eventually favor the people that owns the natural resources. That has been my challenge, that it is very impossible to have something within your pocket and then find it difficult to access. That is human-induced problem. It is not you. It is human. Some factors are there that is becoming a bane. So these are the things I want the government to look at and take lead and see how those things can be entangled. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, okay, to add 2 questions. Yes. If you're going to talk about how can leverage on this, okay? Now, one, Mr. President has said they'll be supplying crude in Naira. So the transaction will be in Naira. That's the first step, okay? Now, 2, is also to define the optimum capacity, production capacity of the various refineries. Dangote has 600,000 barrels per day. They are telling us Port Harcourt, 60,000. Then Warri, I think they set at 5,000. So if they can have optimal productivity, then the issue of sustainability is there. Then the market will be well serviced. Then once again, I would think that Mr. President, in fact, I wish Nigeria has the National Assembly because you can't leave everything to Mr. President. But now I thought that the National Assembly would have been looking into a law, because I think there was a policy flaw in 1973 when the federal government introduced subsidy to this. The subsidy was for production, not for consumption.
Yes.
But they destroyed the refineries and they transferred the subsidy to consumption. Because what the federal government did there was to give crude, provide crude to refineries at price lower than international market, the price of international market.
Yes.
And that was the original subsidy.
Yes.
Okay. It wasn't for consumption, but for production.
Yes.
I think the Nigerian government should revisit that
concept
and see how we can have specific pricing for that domestic refineries,
yes.
different from the international market,
yes.
such that you cannot build the capacity of local domestic production,
yes.
in competition with the foreign economy, in the international economy. And I think that's a step to take. I had thought that the National Assembly would have come up with a law in that direction.
Yes. I want to add to what the editor has said. You see, one of the things I've been yelling about regarding, how price of oil, is skyrocketing and then making it more difficult for the people is what the editor has said, when in the time of when he was even talking about was the military regime.
Yeah.
They were very wise enough to see that they don't want the inhabitants that have the sense of belonging, sense of nature, to say, oh, Father, we thank you. This is the resources you have given to us. To come back and begin to say, oh, because of human-induced problem, why would we be finding it difficult to access crude oil, PMS, and the rest of them? This is why they thought it wise, the military, to say it is better to subsidize the product. They will not gain or lose anything subsidized. One, the product is owned by God, given to man. If you subsidize the product to the detriment of who? To nobody, because it is the government owns, managing that crude oil, for the development of the people. It is given to us by God. So subsidize that crude oil to what's it called, the refineries, and then allow the refinery, the crude oil to be of advantage to the inhabitant, and then you will see the development, the ripple effect, the multiplier effect on the people positively. So I stand with what the editor have said. Very key. So a law should be made. The National Assembly should stand to this and think it twice, that it is very good and important to make a legislation to enforce that the government put subsidy on the production, on the crude oil production, not the PMS.
It may not be necessarily subsidy per se.
Yes.
But it can have specified price for domestic
consumption.
Supply. You get it. Why is it that countries that own crude oil, the price of petrol is cheap within the country? So why is Nigeria's case different? So they need to look at the OPEC document and now look at the Nigerian government, management of the economy. And they take a direction. And these are the areas where you expect the Minister of Finance to be thinking, the Minister of Industry to be thinking. So you don't have to wait until Mr. President say, oh, this is where we're going. Then before we now talk about the lawmakers. So I think that's just the basic. And don't forget that Boa is also coming on straight.
Yes.
Because Allah is also...
Sorry?
Boa. Allah is also getting into it.
Which is actually going to make it good, because I think so
better now can produce and export to West African countries. They told us that why we were increasing prices because we were smuggling out. Now produce and sell them now. I saw the smuggling
and then subsidize the production. The crude oil itself, the crude oil, subsidize the crude oil for the happiness and then for the advantage of the inhabitants, the owner of it, the ones God are giving to them. So I don't feel it. Yeah, I said the editor just mentioned very key instructive word that other countries that get the product, why is it that their own their product, their PMS is very, very cheap compared to those who does not have. So it is because they subsidize the production and to the advantage of the people.
And I mean, it will also aid with the current inflation.
Exactly. Governance is about finding solution to issues like the people. So doing that is part of governance.
All right.